they had 25 days beforehand as the entire Patriot Act was sent to Washington through the GPO, Government Printing Office. How do we know? We got copies. Now, they already knew they were going to stage the event. What they did is they picked the name based upon the crisis they were going to create. We are in Region 5, where I sit right now. It's the Lake State. What's Region 6? Region 6 is Heartland.
By the way, Mark, I remember you talking about, well, I mean, just so many things that ended up happening. It's just amazing. Stay there. We're gonna go ahead and take this break and then come back with Adam if he has anything else. Rusty, Dave, Peggy, Hal, and others. Got to move fast, folks. Here we go.
Yeah.
I wanted to say this to the full audience, and then I decided not to because I didn't think we had time, but I'll come back and talk about it. I remember you and others on air saying the Southern Poverty Law Center was involved. And I remember you saying you had sources. I remember this like 10 years ago. No, it was like 12, 13 years ago. It was like back in 96, 97 when I first started tuning into you. You know, I was on the air separately and then found you, Mark. It was all through osmosis. We were, connected to other people. But I remember you talking about that, and then it came out, as you know, 2 years ago in FBI documents, and now it's been in major papers, that the Southern Poverty Law Center was running the Elohim City Nazi camp. We already knew that with Strassmeyer, and he was CIA, but to know that they really were running the founders and people controlling it as kind of one of the central nodes for the setup. But I wanted to talk about, how did you know at the time, because you didn't even say ADL, that you said Southern Poverty Law Center, if you remember that.
Well, one of the reasons we had sources, first of all, one of the things to remember is patterns. One of the things that I was watching was the specific cyclic pattern with regard to who was presenting information in advance. What they did is they pre-printed and they pre-generated the material, and they had to shoot it out to their assets and affiliates. Southern Poverty Law, was the group that was doing all of the ground coordinating from behind the scenes. Some of the satellite feeds, in fact, we have where literally they got so frustrated they turned and they slavered at the camera and literally blurted out what they wanted, because, in fact, they threw the sponsor, the host of the program, aside, literally brushed him aside, and looked right at the camera, and the demon in them literally came out. This is videotaped in several different situations where they became so frustrated because they had orchestrated it, engineered it, and it didn't go the way it was supposed to, where they were going to tweak both sides. A lot of people, law enforcement was supposed to stumble into this, but they stepped back and said, wait a minute, something's not right here. From our side, we already knew what the game was. We already knew what they were doing. So all we had to do is say, hey, ask a basic question. And we went right down the shopping list of what it is that they were up to. They didn't anticipate that, because their logic is somehow we were going to just bumble into, we hate. Well, we don't hate
Mark,
America.
I just want to commend the incredible foresight and knowledge. I mean, so much, what you've put out has always been so amazingly accurate. And I really think of all the analysts out there, you are the best when it comes to overall general knowledge. And I agree so much with your idea of general knowledge. And that's the type of knowledge I have. And then being able to assess the larger picture. We're going to come back into the full broadcast here and try to run through as many calls as we can. Okay, Mark?
Absolutely. By the way, real quick with Strassmeyer, remember, this last 3 years, it was acknowledged by Germany that they have been giving out blank passports to the Israelis, and that they have been creating fictional identities utilizing real people to bring Israeli Mossad personnel into the United States.
All right, here we go.
Strassmeyer was supposedly a German, but nobody has been able to, notice, nobody's been able to track him down or find him.
Yeah. Well, I thought his dad was a prominent SS officer.
But the identity of the person, yes. But here's the thing. You'll notice nobody has gone...
They could have multiple doppelgangers. We got to go back on the main show. Here we go.
Red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue. And when the band plays, hail to the chief, Lord knows.
They point their cannon at you.
Tell them that it ain't me. It ain't me, no.
By the way, major Bohemian Grove development, since you asked. Vanity editor Alex Shomanoff busted at Bohemian Grove. Vanity Fair contributing editor, was arrested this week after he tried to sneak into the world-famous Bohemian Grove. People magazine tried, everybody else did. The exclusive getaway of some of the world's most powerful men to gather there every year in July for 2 weeks. The San Francisco Chronicle reports. So we've got all these articles. They're going up on jonesreport.com. Aaron is putting them up right now. You know, people also overestimate the power of the New World Order. They're not omnipresent. They're not all powerful. Some say, I'm an agent, Mark is. Agents don't run around for decades telling you how to fight the New World Order and you have power and you're good and you're strong. They try to get you to be Nazis, or they try to get you to act in a way that's unpopular. They try to get you to hide in the bushes and try to get you to be paranoid of everyone and end up going to jail. Okay, they try to set people up like they've set Mark up. That's what they do. And they judge a tree by its fruits. They don't energize the population and say take action. People say Alex couldn't have snuck into Bohemian Grove. Well, I snuck in about 8 years after the last people got arrested trying to sneak in. I went in with Mike Hansen, and I didn't know till I got in. I knew something about the gay porn stars and male prostitutes they bring in. But I wasn't thinking when I snuck in. I got in, didn't go through the main checkpoint. I snuck around over a hill through some swamps into the worker parking area and got on a bus going in. They did climb up and look at me. Then I had employees laughing at me and Mike because I weigh 245 pounds now. I weighed 180, real good looking. Mike's not a bad looking guy. I didn't know at the time, but they thought we were male prostitutes. It's kind of embarrassing, but that's the only reason we made it. We got questioned by Secret Service. I knew enough about the Grove to say, we're with the what camp did I say? What's the name of the Bush camp? The Hillbillies. And then I got questioned by the sheriff of the county. He was there. And then I said, this is too dangerous. We hid in the woods till dark, then snuck out and got the ritual on tape that supposedly happened every 15th. And it did happen on time. And then we got out of there. Then we made copies of the tapes. The British watched us make copies of the tapes. Those were mailed, erased. Another group were erased. We made copies and carried them on our person. Checked bags. Those got erased. I mean, Mark, that's another thing. People can't believe that we can actually infiltrate enemy operations. I was able to do it, and people just can't believe that I could have some success, Mark.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, remember, command and control personnel are basically the people that the enemy targets for control and manipulation. In the General Staff War College, the CFR focuses on General Staff command and control personnel. They don't get the whole command structure. Their logic is that if they use the hourglass system and they go to the choke points, they can manipulate. This is how 9/11 took place. If you have the command and control people under your thumb, everybody else follows orders under the assumption that somebody's going to do something right. As each second ticks by and they perceive that something is going wrong, then people have to make decisions to either do the right thing or just follow along like sheep. And that's where the change took place in the later stages of 9/11, when one field commander or another finally did send aircraft to intercept, even though Washington told him to stand down, I am sure. Remember, this is hard for people to understand because they do not deal with military personnel. At one point, I could brag that I met about 78% of all of the General Staff officers and had briefed them in the military, in the U.S. Army, I won't say the Navy, Marine Corps, whatever. But I had met and briefed at one time or another many, many General Staff officers because of the nature of my job and some of the positions that I held. Now, most of these men, you could sit down if they were in plain clothes and they're just as normal as everybody else, and you could pick the nutcases out in a heartbeat. And I mean nutcases, the ones that are the Fruit Loops that are with the CFR. The men who are normal men have stood up and have actually been the ones putting the brakes on this at different times.
Absolutely. We got to go to calls, but I just wanted to add that I also forgot one thing. It turned out with the People magazine thing that they had a rat inside People that blew the whistle. I think that's another reason I was able to infiltrate, was because I wasn't with a major magazine that would report, and I didn't even trust the British media. They even put this in their film. I didn't tell them what I was going to do and broke off and did something else because my instinct told me to do it.
The rodents are actually, that's the hint, they're designed to be gatekeepers. Even the fact this story is in the controlled press right now, remember, is to scare everybody into the idea that, don't go and look at them, they'll grab you. Well, the whole point is that, contrary to what everybody thinks, imagine if like...
You're saying maybe people getting caught has been staged. Because
yes, absolutely. The idea behind getting people caught is to terrify. Remember, for years, before you went in, Alex, The most common story that was used, and I'm telling you this from personal experience, was, well, you know, if the state police, even the highway patrol, the chips are up there, a couple of them got grabbed and they were stripped naked and they were raped and they were molested for 6 or 7 days and thrown back on the highway naked. Now, that was to terrorize the police, the sheriff's department, everybody who's not a spit swapper or ring knocker, into thinking, oh, my goodness, whatever you do, don't go there. Imagine if everybody right now listening treated this like V, and everybody just turned and walked upon that site and converged. What could they do? What really could they do? What, are they going to nuke their own site? I mean, come on, think about it, people. What if everybody stood there on the road with cameras and just looked at them and pointed at them and then we see you? And we see you for what you are.
Well, what if at 0 hour boats were landing and people were scaling and coming in from all directions and in on the main road? They could do nothing.
Well, I think just the idea that they're terrified of the idea that people will look at them and not be fearful, because this is what this whole thing is based upon. And it doesn't mean that they aren't wicked and evil and can't do bad things, but they're thugs.